Back here on Live Now from Fox, 11:58 on the East Coast and 8:58 on the West Coast. Do want to get back into the headlines that we are following today on Live Now. Take a look at the screen and the video you've seen time and time again. 2 weeks after Donald Trump was nearly assassinated, the FBI now confirms it was indeed a bullet that struck the former president's ear. The agency moved to clear up some conflicting accounts of what caused the former president's injuries after a gunman opened fire at his rally in Pennsylvania. The FBI did publish a statement, and I do want to pull it up for you there on your screen. They said what struck former President Trump in the ear was a bullet, whether whole or fragmented into smaller pieces, fired from the deceased subject's rifle. Again, that statement there released by the FBI. Want to talk about that and all the latest developments here, so let's bring in Mike Harrigan, retired chief of the FBI's firearms training program and current principal at Pax Group, LLC. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us.
No, thanks for having me, Josh. Glad to be here.
Of course. Well, first off, the big question I do have to ask you about is that statement from the FBI. Overall, what do you make of the statement, and why was it so important for the FBI to clarify that?
Well, I think when the director appeared before Congress, he made a statement that, caused some to interpret there was doubt whether it was fragments of the bullet, shrapnel, or the bullet itself. And I think the director was just being cautious there because the forensics on this probably haven't been finalized. I mean, they're doing a lot of research and they're doing a lot of technical analysis to find out the details of whether that was, the details of what the bullet flight was and what struck him. But I don't think the director anticipated the twisting of that into a partisan thing. And I think the Bureau had to put out a clarification that they're comfortable that it was a bullet, whether it's a piece of the bullet or the full bullet. Doesn't really matter. I mean, the fact is that somebody was trying to kill the president and that clearly was firing a bullet at the president.
And that's important to note that in reality, it doesn't necessarily matter. It's more so about the fact that he did survive. And as you mentioned, the fact that somebody did try to assassinate a former president. I do want to ask you, though, Chris Wray did testify over on Capitol Hill earlier on this week, and that's kind of what led up to all of this. Can you kind of break down his statement? You touched on it already, but basically what he had to say and why he was trying to be just a little bit cautious there.
Well, I think Director Wray did a great job in the testimony. He really opened up the investigation and really addressed questions that members of Congress and the public really have here. And this is an unusual thing for the Bureau to do. Normally, the Bureau is very methodical, very evidence-based, and they only put statements out in analysis when they are absolutely sure of the findings. But the public interest here and congressional interest, due to the fact that someone tried to change the course of a presidential election, called for the director to get up there, and he had to step out of his comfort zone a bit and talk about things that maybe haven't been finalized totally. I think he did a great job. He put out there about the explosives, which people wanted to know. He put out the fact that he thought that the gunman was acting alone, but that they're still looking into various electronic means to see if there were other communications. That was important. I think it was critical. And he addressed the fact of the ladder and how the gunman got up on the roof. So I think he provided some very good clarification that the public needed to hear, and which the media, to your own credit and others in the media, have been quite accurate in reporting. And I think that as I come back to the fact that the Bureau generally doesn't engage in these kind of communications before things are finalized. So I give hats off to the Bureau and the director for getting up there and providing that clarity, but there's much more to be learned and there's much more to be found out on this thing that will come together as the investigation progresses.
And kind of on that same note, Trump's former physician, who is now a Texas state representative, released a full letter on social media Friday as well, making it clear that Trump was hit by a bullet. So again, you kind of already touched on this, but is it necessary to put out a statement like that? Does everyone kind of want to clarify exactly what did happen?
I'm not sure why it's even a question from my perspective. Clearly, firearm was fired towards the president, and he was injured immediately. I mean, there's really no other way to couch this. Now, whether whether one of the bullets or more of the bullets could have hit some piece of, some are saying glass, like the teleprompter. It doesn't matter. Because in the overall scheme of things with ballistics, a small piece of the bullet can be very lethal. Doesn't matter. I think that was just another part of someone trying to explain what happened. But really, it's going to come down to the Bureau's investigation and the forensics and the bullet trajectory analysis and everything else. It's going to have us, we're going to find out definitively what happened. But I don't think there's any question that's true.
Trump did put out a statement on Truth Social where he said he is still going to hold outdoor rallies, but also said that he's going to return to Butler, Pennsylvania. That is, of course, the rally where he was shot in the ear. He wants to go to honor the life of Corey Comperatore, who is the retired fire chief who was killed in that shooting. Is it likely, based on the situation, that the FBI, Secret Service, any of them would advise against that? Or is it kind of, I guess, whatever he wants to do?
Well, naturally in protective operations, outside venues are a bit more riskier than inside venues when you can control the audience a little better, even though at an outside venue, normally everybody is swept with metal detectors in close, but there's always that possibility that someone could take a distance. But I think what candidates have to show is that they're not intimidated by one man acting alone. I mean, if this had been a situation where it was part of a larger conspiracy, maybe a foreign actor, which seems to have been ruled out, well, that would be a very dramatic threat. And that would be something that could cause candidates to change their strategy on how they do meetings and rallies. But here, one man acting alone, I don't see the candidate, especially Mr. Trump, with the way that he does connect with audiences and gets out there broadly. I don't think he's going to want to how he does his rallies.
My last question for you here, where does the investigation go from here? What is next? And we know there are multiple investigations that are underway, but essentially the main FBI investigation, where does that head next?
Well, the FBI's investigation is very specific. It's really looking at what happened that day, and they really want to know if there's an ongoing threat to the president, other candidates, and that's really their focus. So they're going to be doing all the hard, evidentiary work, all the electronic work to try to tear apart this guy's background. And it seems that they pretty much ruled that out from judging from what the director has said. That's really where it goes from here. They have to look at incoming threats, other threats, but it's really the Office of Inspector General through DHS, which is really going to look at the actions of the Secret Service and the actual particulars of the protective operations and the plan, and really put together what the lessons are learned here, what the Secret Service can do better. Of course, they're going to incorporate the Bureau's forensic and interview evidence that they bring together here, but really it's up to DHS OIG. In addition to that, the Secret Service, knowing that they're filled with consummate professionals, they're trying to do their job the best they can with tough circumstances, they're going to be interested more than anybody to fix what went wrong. Because I can tell you, those men and women that make up extremely talented at what they do, and they took this personally when this failure occurred. So they're going to be really at the front line here, looking to see what they can do better next time.
All right, Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to join us again and break it all down. Obviously, there are new developments that are happening pretty much on a daily basis with all of the different investigations that are underway. Is there anything else you want to add about any of this before I let you go?
No, I would say I'm very pleased with the bipartisan approach on Capitol Hill during the questioning of the director. It seems that both sides were really trying to get down to the truth here, and both sides are very interested in protecting candidates against political violence. And I think, I think at the end of the day, we're going to learn some good lessons here in the protective community, and hopefully, this never happens again. And that, I'm just pleased that the coverage in the media has been generally fair. So hopefully the American people will get some answers here as we go forward, and, our democratic process can be safeguarded against one person looking to change the course of the country.
All right. Thank you again for taking the time to be here with us. As always, we appreciate it.
Glad to be here.